Now, I've been looking into these WeMOS, now rebranded as Lolin, Lolin, mini boards, D1 based mini boards. This is in essence a motherboard for 2 stacks. I also have a 3 stack on order, so that it'll have 1, 2 and 3. And other than the blue tack on the bottom to keep it in place, you see that all the lines are just paralleled across with some good ground shielding and power shielding. And then you buy no end of little modules for them. Obviously, first and foremost is some form of processor. So this is the main one. It's called the D1 Mini, which is in essence a Arduino board, but using the ESP8266 Wi-Fi chip and Linux hub. In essence, that's what's inside it. But if you're programming it through the Arduino IDE, you don't really need to know anything about the Linux side of what's going on, which is good. Tiny. The drawbacks, aren't there always? Because it's tiny and has only a handful of pins, you get very little I/O, and I mean by input-output lines. There's 2 forms of I/O lines on Arduinos and many other single board computers, the analog and digital. So you can see, if I can keep the camera still, we've got digital lines. We have 1 top right-ish analog line. We have transmit and receive, which I have yet to find out if they're digital I/O or can be at least told to be digital I/O. Reset button down here, 5 volts, 3 volt ground, and that's about your lot. Very nice little units. The problem I'm having with them is I might be running out of digital lines, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, the next one is a simple little prototyping board. It's just a pass-through header, you know, pins on one side, sockets on the other, so you can stack them. Details all the pins, and it's just a bunch of pads. Within the white lines on the left and right are in fact directly connected to the appropriate pins. So where it says TX up here, this little pad here is also TX, so you can do shorting and little patch cables. This one I intend to put a 6-pin 90-degree header on here, so that will connect to my RFID scanner board, read writer. Because the intent, and maybe I should have started off with this, is that I'm going to create a door opener Mark III. Why, you ask? Or maybe you don't. But since I took delivery of this little unit, and you may have seen the video about it already, it's basically a little Doppler radar unit that can can transmit beams through wood and concrete and glass and whatever else and pick up motion on the other side. Now, I thought it would be nice if I could incorporate this somehow into the Mark III front door opener, such that if anybody walked down the path, and we have steps, 10 steps down to the front door, if anybody walked down those, this would pick up them approaching And because we would now be Wi-Fi enabled, I could just set up a little, basically a tiny web server with one page, and it would flag saying somebody's approaching. Or I could have my laptop have a little app on it that, not my laptop, my desktop, have a little app on it that logs into this guy's IP address on the internal Wi-Fi network and monitors it for traffic. And if something happens, it could sound off a little beeper, which are incredibly loud. So that was my plan. Now, to make this plan work, obviously I need the processor card. So that would just merely, it says merely with one hand trying to film it as well, slip into there. Then we need my prototyping board to put the connectors on for the RFID, and possibly a couple of LEDs. It depends if I start to run out of digital I/O. Whoops, let me get the camera in line. But now, of course, I can't see. Is that it? Let me just check. It sounds a bit uncool. No, that's good. So now we have that one stacked. Now this one, which is an SD card shield, as they call it, micro SD, I would not be using, because they've come out with a new one which includes a real-time clock, battery-backed real-time clock with SD card, which is what I actually use in the front door opener Mark II. So for the moment, I'm just playing with this one until the Chinese company come around to actually sending me the new one. Well, not new one, but this time with a real-time clock and SD card holder. So that will just, again, difficult to do while filming, pop into there. Okay, so far so good. Now, I do need a relay card, or relay shield I should say, because I use that to open the deadbolt, if you like, for the door. The problem I had with these D1 mini shields is that the relay boards came defaulted to D1, digital I/O pin 1. Well, I might need that for something else. I don't know. So I certainly don't want it defaulting to something. So I've eliminated that problem by a little bit of dentistry. Oops, tooth missing. And guess what pin that is? That's D1. So when I decide what pin I'm going to use to power this relay, I will solder a little bit of jumper lead from whatever digital I/O pin I use and run it round and tap it on the top of this D1. But I certainly didn't want it to be permanently D1, because D1's used by way too many things.